Hello, I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another video. So today I thought we'd take a look at this IBM 5150. So I've had this for a while now. I've had it for just over a year, and I actually picked it up from the Vintage Computer Museum in Lee, and they had one of the sales going on to sell some stuff to help fund the museum. So I decided to pick this up. Now, I have worked on it already, and I did get it up to a working state. Unfortunately, it's still not working, so I've got some more work to do. But I thought in this video, I'd try and get it working. For those of you who don't know, this is basically the original PC, essentially. And it was first released in 1981. This one's from 1983. You might be able to see there. And in 1983, that's when they introduced the IBM 5150 to the UK and I think Europe as well. Anyway, so hopefully you can see on the overhead camera, but unfortunately it doesn't go too wide. That's the widest it goes, so I either need to get a different camera or just have it higher up on the wall, because it is wall mounted. But anyway, so we got two of the 5¼ inch floppy drives. These are both IBM branded tandem drives, and as you can see, one's got a resistor pack in. Originally it didn't have any at all, so I had to put one in. And also, one of these is dated 1985, the other one's dated 83, so I think one of the drives may have been swapped. Also, something that's quite cool is that both the latches still work, because it's quite common for these to break, and then you have to 3D print a replacement. And you can also see the cards we have in here. We have a floppy controller card, which is standard, and then we've got a CGA card. I think originally this PC may have had a monochrome card. I'm not sure, but there's a CGA card in here. And speaking of monochrome cards, I do actually have one of the original IBM monochrome cards. And from the same sale at the museum, I did pick up this. This is a Quattro card, which, as you can probably tell if you're from the UK, it's a modem because it has the phone line cable, and yeah, that's the other end. But yeah, it's a modem on a card, and it's quite an old one. But I think one day I want to do a little bit of experimenting, make a video, something to do with dial-up stuff. I think it'd be quite fun. So this might come in handy. And another thing I got at the same time was this drive. So this drive was just on its own on the table, and I decided to buy this as well because I thought it'd be good to have a spare drive. Now, unfortunately, this one, the latch is broken. But as you can see, this one is an IBM branded one, and it's a tandem drive again. So, and this one is dated 1984. So yeah, I haven't tested this one. This one was just purchased as a spares drive. So I guess I'll test it at some point. But I think these two drives, well, at least one of them works, I'm pretty sure. So I have already sort of powered it up and done a little bit of a repair. So I'll talk about that in a moment once I've taken the motherboard out, because I believe the issue we have is related to RAM. So I'll need to take the board out to desolder the RAM. Okay, so I've just started to take it apart, but then I realized I probably should show you what current state it's in, what working state it's in. So it does power on now, because all I've done is replace a RAM chip and brought it to life, because there was no video at all, no video output, no PC speaker, nothing, because one of the RAM chips in bank 0 had gone bad. So I did replace that, and now I've got output, but it's still not working 100%, and I believe it's related to RAM. Okay, so for video output, I've got this composite cable. This is actually, I think it's 3 meters, so it's quite long, but it's actually quite a nice high quality one. I believe Pure AV by Belkin. But yeah, it's good quality. It's just a lot easier to use composite, especially since I'll get full color, because I don't have a CGA monitor. I have a monochrome monitor which would work, but it would take up a lot of space on the bench. So instead I'm going to hook it up to this PVM, which I've got on my test bench, I guess, test trolley. It is on wheels, which is quite handy, but I'll wheel it over to the bench and I'll hook the composite up to the back. Now, I don't own an original IBM keyboard, so I'm going to have to use this PS2 Dell keyboard with this adapter, which converts it to PS2. Now, when I originally powered it up for the first time, quite a while ago, not long after I purchased it, I did check for shorted tantalums, and surprisingly, there was no shorted tantalums on the main board or on any of the cards, any of the floppy drives, which is quite a surprise, so I didn't have to replace any. But it has been a while since I powered it on, so we might get a fireworks show, but we'll see. I could check again for shorts, but I think we'll just power it up and hope for the best. Okay, so I've got the composite cable hooked up. Alright, so I'm going to power it on now. Okay, the fan's spinning. Yep, and on the monitor we have a blinking cursor. And there we go, we've got an error. Parity check 1. So, now that could be a dip switch setting, I'm trying to think. Because last time I powered this up, unless there's been another failure, the last time I powered this up, it actually booted into cassette basic. So I was actually able to at least do stuff, but it was displaying the wrong amount of memory free. Right, I did change the dip switch settings. So let's try it again and see if we get anything else. It's still got the flashing cursor. No, parity check 1. Well, it's doing less than I remember, but either way I'm going to remove it or get the motherboard out. So yeah, these are the drives that were in there. This one says 1985. And the other one is 1983. You might be able to see it. Also, there is some rust here. I've done my best to get it out. It was a little bit worse than that, but that's the best I can get it for now. And there is the CGA card, which is in nice condition. It also says UK there. I don't think there's anything different about the card compared to the American one, because even though it's CGA, so it has a composite out, I don't think it's any different, because I think the crystal for the color is on the board and you can adjust it, I think. I'm not sure, I'm not an expert with how the CGA works, but I think this is the same as the US version, I'm not sure. One thing I forgot to show is the back, and on the back, this label, it says made in New York, so made in the USA, but it says it's for 240 volts, so this makes me think it's an early 5150 for the UK market, because it's, yeah, made in the US, so essentially imported, but for 240 volts, whereas normally you find them that they're made in Scotland. So this one seems to have been imported. And then, since this is a 5150, we've got the cassette port, which is for an audio cassette recorder, and that's because this has cassette basic in ROM. So when you boot up the machine with no floppy drive, or well, no floppy in the drive, you get booted up into cassette basic. Okay, so it's the next day and I've decided to start working on the motherboard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to replace I'm going to socket all of the Bank 0 RAM. I've already done one, as you can see. That's the original RAM that was bad. That was causing it to get no video. Where is it? Yeah, this one here. So, yeah, this one here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest of them now and socket them all. Because it's good also if one fails in the future, I can easily replace it. But also this MT RAM here, that's branded MT, that's made in the USA, I assume. apparently this is really bad, as in it just fails. So it's almost always bad. And I do believe that the fault is with one of these RAM chips. I did actually test all of the extended RAM here, all the socketed RAM. I used one of these testers. This is, what is it? I think it's just a DRAM tester, some generic one I purchased online. And it's pretty simple. You just pop the RAM in, and it's USB powered, and then it will flash green if it's correct, if it's healthy or whatever, and it will flash red if it's not. Now, this isn't, a definitive test. The RAM can still be bad, but this is like a basic test. So I have tested all this RAM, all these Motorola chips, and all these other chips, but there is no empty RAM other than the ones that are not socketed. So I'm going to go and replace those. I'm going to remove these ROM chips too, because I don't want to damage those, because I'm going to have to use a heat gun, my hot air station, I should say, in order to do this. So I'm going to remove the cassette basic. I'm also going to remove the one that's in socket already, and I will remove this first row here underneath the bank of one. Something I think I forgot to mention is that the board here is a 64K to 256K board, which is nice because a lot of the games I actually want to play on this need 256K, so I'm quite happy that this is that version of the board. I'm going to flow some fresh solder into the bottom of these chips. And you can see this one, well, you might be able to see. This is the one that I've already done. So I'm going to flow some fresh solder just to help it out. So I'm just going to spread some flux. It will spread itself out when I heat it up. This probably isn't the best angle, but I don't use the overhead camera much, so hopefully you can still sort of see it. Yeah, the solder's taking quite nicely here. Sometimes if the board's being stored in less than adequate conditions, it can sort of oxidize on the top, and then it can be a bit of a pain to get the solder to adhere. I think this board was stored in quite a nice place because it's relatively clean and free of damage. I flowed new solder, fresh solder, onto all the legs. So I'm going to desolder, get as much solder as I can out. I won't be able to get it all out because the top of the board, yeah, it just won't. Yeah, it won't desolder any of the solder on the top side. That's just the way it is. It's quite tricky, really, with a board like this. So yeah, I'm just going to desolder, get as much as I can out, and then on the top side, I'm going to heat it up with this hot air gun. This is just a cheap one. I think a lot of people use this. It's okay. It's not the best, but it's what I've got. Okay, here we go with the hot air station. Okay, so I've just finished the long process of desoldering all the ICs, all the RAM chips. And yeah, they're all here. I will test them as well, just to see which one was bad, or how many were bad. But yeah, I finished it up. It took a while, mainly because to clear to clear the holes, I had to use my desoldering gun because I've run out of solder wick. And also, is that one? done. Which one is that? Anyway, so yeah, I've done it now. That's what it looks like. There is still flux, as you can see, which I'm going to clean off with some IPA. Unfortunately, I don't know if you can see from the angle, but the socket that I did replace in the past has melted a little bit on both sides. But yeah, there was just no way getting around that. I did put Kapton tape over it, but as you can see, the wires for the legs of the RAM chips adjacent are so close, so it just ended up melting a little bit. And also this here, one of these like slightly melted, you can hardly see it. This is actually flux, so this is okay. But and then on the underside, yeah, you can see a lot more flux. So I'm going to remove this with some IPA. All right, I've just got a toothbrush and an old towel and some IPA, which unfortunately very low on. Then I just fill the lid with IPA. And then what I like to do, the side closest to the part that needs cleaning, just put it at an angle like this, and then just brush downwards. Let it drip off onto the towel, like so. This side's the most important right now because obviously I've been putting the sockets on here and I don't want any trapped flux to just sit there. There's still some bits of IPA that is drying, but yeah, it's a lot better than it was. So now I'm going to put the new sockets in. Okay, so it's been a couple of days now since I've actually put the sockets into this. You can see them there. And it does work, the machine. I did test it before I put it all together. So it does work now. And what I did to test the machine is I actually used the floppy that comes with the IBM hardware maintenance service manual. So it's sort of like a diagnostic sort of floppy that checks the system out. And that reported everything was okay. And it also tested that this floppy drive works. And the cool thing is this one also works. And so they both work. Now, I don't have any floppy software other than that diagnostic disk. So my plan was to use this. This is a grease weasel, which basically connects via USB to your PC, and you can hook it up to an old floppy drive and read and write software. So my plan was to use this, but for some reason I can't get it to work. And I've definitely had this working in the past with one of these drives, but I just can't get it to work anymore. I don't know what. I think it's a command parameter I'm not doing properly, or I'm missing. I'm not sure, but can't get it to work. So I caved in and I just made some floppies the more difficult way, which was to use a Gotek drive. So I pinched one of these Gotek drives from my PC98 clone, and what I did was I removed this drive and put the Gotek in there. Then I loaded DOS onto the Gotek, and then I used disk copy command to copy DOS onto drive B with a blank disk. So that's how I got DOS. And I did the same for the others. So I've got some games here: King's Quest, Leisure Suit Larry, and Ultima 1. So I'll demonstrate this working with some software. Another thing I forgot to mention is that I actually have a monitor, an IBM 5154, which is a EGA monitor. It's quite a nice one. Unfortunately, it's quite rough on the inside and it doesn't work too well, if at all. Basically, I've got no deflection whatsoever. It's just a dot in the center of the screen. I've got no deflection and it isn't making much sense. It's quite a complicated monitor, to be honest, compared to the others, because it's like a multi-sync monitor. Yeah, for some reason, it isn't making sense. I took some voltages and whatnot. Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, at least at the moment. So in the future, I definitely want to get it working, or at least get another monitor. But for now, I'm just gonna have to stick with the either composite output or CGA output on a different monitor. Okay, you'll have to excuse the mess and the poor lighting down here, but I'm in my room with my main PC setup, and where I do most of my gaming as well. This is a Sony PVM here, which I mainly use to play retro games. I have my Mr. FPGA set up just underneath it. But anyway, we're down here because this Sony PVM, which is from, I believe, mid to late 80s, it's a Sony 2130QM. It's a really good PVM. It has a digital RGB input, which I've never used before, and I totally forgot it had it. It's basically a 9-pin D-sub connector meant for microcomputers. But yeah, I've never used it before, so I thought I'd hook it up with the IBM 5150. So I've got it hooked up, of course, to the CGA card in here, so I'll power it on now. Okay, it's a little hard to film this monitor, but it looks pretty good in person, nice and sharp. As you can see, I've still got the 131 error, and I've just skipped the date and time. I'm on drive B now. Drive A, I've got the DOS floppy, and drive B, I have Ultima 1, so I'll do a directory. So this is the directory of the disk, and I'll type in Ultima. There we go. So this should boot up Ultima 1. Ultima 1, the First Age of Darkness. This I've never played before, but I've always wanted to play. And with most games on the IBM 5150, or at least from that time period, they're just PC speaker only. But yeah, as I said, in person it looks really sharp, really nice. I'm going to continue a character, which I believe is a female warrior named Jill. Just a random character I made to test it out, see if it works. And I don't think the CGA palette looks bad for this game, to be honest. Alright, and there we go, there's Ultima booted up. Again, in person, it looks really sharp and clear. But yeah, it's running as it should. The PC speaker's making noises when you move. You probably can't hear it. Or maybe you can't. But yeah, this is Ultima 1. So again, I've wanted to play this for a while, so now I can actually sit down and play it on original hardware. On original IBM 5150. But yeah, I will be playing Ultima 1 on this machine for a bit, hooked up to this monitor, which is nice because it is a 20-inch monitor, so I can sort of sit back and relax and play this. It would be nice to get the IBM monitor working though, because the IBM monitor just looks so good with the PC. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. I'm not sure how long it's going to be, this video, but we'll find out when I make it. Appreciate you guys watching. Yeah, hope you enjoyed and hope you have a great day. Take care.